I've gathered up all the builds that Gerard Boom made for me while he was here visiting from the Netherlands, which you've seen in the past few weeks' videos. And I'm going to pair that with the awesome new Savage Remains Kickstarter by TigerSkullRPG to make this ultra-realistic Diablo 4 inspired diorama this week on Tabletop Witchcraft. Hey there, and welcome back to Tabletop Witchcraft. This week I got something very special to show you, but first I just want to mention that at the end of this video I've got a very special channel announcement that you're going to want to hang around for and listen to. So with that little cliffhanger, let's jump right into this awesome diorama right here. You see, a few months ago I got this idea to put a diorama together based on the Necromancer from the new Diablo 4 game. Video is not sponsored by it, but I've played Diablo since the very first game. Absolutely love it. And I ran into a problem that I typically have. I'm very picky, trying to find the miniatures that I wanted to create this diorama. So I knew I couldn't find them. After searching for a little while, I reached out to my man Alex from TigerSkullRPG, told him what I wanted to do, and like usual, he knocked it out of the park. And he did one better. He said, look, why don't we work on this Kickstarter together where I'll craft up and make these awesome skeleton models. You help me, advertise it. And yeah, we'll kind of like split the funds a little bit. So if you go support that Kickstarter, you're not only going to help out Alex, but you're going to help out and fund my channel as well. Link down in the description below. Now last month when Gerard Boom was here from Shifting Lands, what a great time we had. I set him out on an adventure to craft all the structures I needed for this diorama. And some of them I didn't even know what he was going to make, but I told him I would incorporate them. So watch the video and see how I put those into this build. The main crypt, if you didn't see last week's video, make sure to check it out. I went back and I drafted plans on the mausoleum that Gerard made, so you can actually buy those and build along with me. Finally, if you want to help support the channel, head on over to Firelight Fables Candle Company, TWC10 at checkout, get you 10% off your order. Kickback comes to help fund the channel. Win-win all the way around. Alright, if you're ready, let's go grab some supplies and let's get crafting. Alright, we're going to kick this video off with the House of Hades candle by Firelight Fables Candle Company. Perfect candle for this craft right here. And we've got a culmination of really amazing structures that Gerard Boom made for me when he visited here from the Netherlands last month. So we're going to set some of these aside and come back to them to add them to the diorama. You can see the crypt and this small tombstone, I guess, in a previous video here on the channel. The other structures he did while I was away and he was on my patio enjoying himself. So right now my plan is to make it so that the structures come off of this diorama in case I want to use them for some other aspect of gameplay. So to do that, I want to make a little recessed area for some of these. And to do that, we're just going to cut out a thin piece of foam, and any gaps we'll use this patch and paint to fill it in. Now this outside border I'm only making so that when I place this on the table for tabletop gaming, it's got a nice smooth transition up onto the hill where all this is going down. The area right here we're going to cut out to place the smoke machine, and I'm using this hot wire knife to make all my cuts. You can find both of these items in my affiliate page where you can get them at a discount at tabletopwitchcraft.com. Go check that out. There's a really cool technique here where we can just core a little hole in the center. It's actually going to act as a little spot for us to put our finger to pull the door off of the bottom to enclose the smoke machine. But what we do is we take the wire out of the proxon, run it through the hole, and then we don't have a line or a cut on the outside of the diorama, because the diorama itself is just going to be this rectangle. Okay, so here is the edge. We'll do this really quick. I'm using my hot wire foam knife just to make a nice smooth transition so it looks nice on the game table. Now it's not that I was having a hard time visioning what I wanted, but I want to draw out on here exactly where I wanted everything. It helps lay things out, knowing where I got to cut things out, add things like sculpt and mold and so on. Now I did cut down about 1/8 of an inch here with a scalpel and just basically scooped all the foam out because I wanted this recessed so that I can place my clay pathway through here. Now, if you're going to make small precision cuts, this is not an X-Acto knife. This is a scalpel. It is 1,000 times better than an X-Acto knife. Again, I've got these under my Amazon links on my website, and I learned that little trick from Gerard Boom. All right, now off to some Das clay. This is amazing stuff. We're going to add a little texture to it, and it's going to allow us to have some really great detail when it comes to this brickwork. I could have made it out of foam, but it's really hard to beat that kind of detail as quickly as I can get it with the clay. Now don't forget, there's a few areas here where we want to have some, standout details, so we'll pop some of these pavers out. And to fill all these cracks, we're just going to use the old baking soda and super glue trick. Alright, now everything I always preach is in layers. Goes the same here. We add some big rocks, we got some glue left over, add some sand over it to kind of blend everything together. Once that sets a little bit, pop it off, and it'll fit nice and snug. Now we're off to Mod Podging. I want to show this. You too can hang out with me at night live while I'm crafting. It's one of my tiers on Patreon. You can visit me there. And it's always a fun time. Alright, so locking things in. We're using some rubbing alcohol, and then we're going to add a little glue wash to it. If you get too much glue, not a big deal. Just sop it up with a paper towel. I just wanted to point this out that this is not Mod Podge. This is just black primer. I used Mod Podge on the foam, but it's a little thick for the detail on the stone clay pavers. And we don't have to wash everything one color and just slap it on. Leave some areas blank. You can see here I'm using some brown wash instead of black. Every little bit of variation kind of plays a trick on your eye and makes it look that much more interesting. There's a little bit of Mod Podge and some tile grout for the base. And again, we just sprayed that with some rubbing alcohol and a glue wash as well. Now it's going to look like brownie batter right here. It's totally fine. It's going to harden up real nice. And you're not going to see most of that anyway once we had all our flocking on it. Now here's the paint scheme. We're really just using the technique of a lot of different layers and dry brushing. You can paint this really whatever colors you want, but I was going for a light sandstone look almost for the roof, darker gray for the walls. It was almost like a reverse dry brush. I started with a light gray for the arches and then added a dark gray to that, almost as if it was like molding over time. Just like miniature painting, we want to make sure we edge highlight where the dark areas are with some nice brighter contrast. Makes things pop and stick out. Now I didn't want to just slap a black wash or a brown wash over this whole thing, so I'm selective washing this. Little bits of wash. I'm not going to rely on a wash to make this thing stand out. We're going to actually paint it like it's a model. Selectively placing a little bit of green in these crevices here, these grout lines. It's not a lot in one area, but as you can see right here, we're putting it on really thin. A few layers of this over and over, it's really going to stand out, and it's going to be a really nice, smooth transition. Alright, a little bit of pigment powder here. It's a little thick, but it definitely brushes out. You can just keep working that in, and it does change its look once you hit it with some rubbing alcohol or pigment fixer. Now I wanted to point this out. This is something that I don't think a lot of people think of. When you're working with flocking, just like everything else, you can edge highlight with flocking. You can edge highlight and layer and have detail. So we have our base green, a darker green, and I just basically edge highlighted with glue, and then we're going to sprinkle on a little bit of lighter flocking, and voila, we got some edge highlighting and more layers, more interesting to look at than just one solid color. Alright, we got some little baby tombstones. We're going to texture these in the Gerard Boom fashion. You can watch some of my previous videos where he talks about why he uses a pencil. And we go back to the scalpel to just make some small little cuts in these to make them all unique. And I thought I'd throw a few wooden crosses into the graveyard as well. These are just toothpicks held together with some super glue. Alright, our little popsicle stick tombstones. These are a lot of fun just to place all over. And there's a reason why we're doing this one right now. We're gonna cut this out, and I love my details. This is gonna be a fun little one. I'm using a piece from the Scattered Remains collection, and we'll have this guy busting out of the ground, coming to do the will of his master. All right, so the grout, brown, it looks good, but it's very uniform. We're gonna texture it up with, or layer it up with some washes. You're not gonna see a lot of this, but in the few areas where it sticks out, it's all varied, it's all layered. It's gonna add that much more effect and look when this is done. So you see, we're only gonna see a little bit of brown. We're only gonna see a little bit of that flocking as well. If you're enjoying this video and my channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. Alright, so this is just some of the static grass that I've used, and I want to start out with some darker browns. We're going to work our way up to some colors that have more green in them, but we really just want to keep layering this, make it look really shaggy, really unkempt and overgrown. And while this is curing, why don't we take a minute to talk about the new Kickstarter by TigerSkullRPG, The Savage Remains. Okay, so The Savage Remains is the new Kickstarter by TigerSkullRPG. He's offering a whole bunch of miniatures for this. If you're a fan of the old Jason the Argonauts, like skeleton-style battles with the claymation, this is for you. It's totally awesome. It's exactly what I was looking for this diorama. You act now, you can get in on the Scattered Remains collection, the Deathless Apprentice, and the Legion of Death. You got to go check it out. Link down in the description below. Alright, so I'm not going to show you how I painted all these up, but basically I used a black surface primer and then a zenithal prime of bone white. Once that was done curing, I hit them all up with some Nuln Oil and then a dry brush again of that bone white color. Once that cured, I came back again and I did a nice dry brush of wolf gray. And I went medium heavy with that, and the wolf gray almost has like this little light blue hue to it, and it really gave it that authentic Jason the Argonauts skeleton vibe. I loved it. And again, you know, this video was inspired by the new video game Diablo 4, not sponsored by it or anything, but again, this looks just like those guys you'd see in any of those games, so I loved it. I'll put a link up above how to wire this up. Super easy. I've got an easy LED wiring video. Go check that out. It's Terraintronics. He's got a YouTube channel, also a Tindy website, and all you need for all your electronics for gaming, he's got it. All right, back to the video here where we're going to add some, you know, foliage, different stuff, some basic tufts. We're adding a little bit more delicate stuff where hopefully people won't be playing, and that's going to be from Diorama Precipe. Here we go with the Scattered Remains guy crawling out of his grave. And now we can just start adding all our miniatures from the Savage Remains collection. And all I did was on one foot add a dab of hot glue. It's going to allow me to place these miniatures. They're never going to come off unless I pluck them off. And if I do, it's not going to ruin paint or anything because it's just a tiny, tiny little bit of glue. Alright, and this is how I painted up the Deathless Apprentice. And we're just going to stick him up top on that grave. And I want to show this real quick. One little tiny dab under maybe half of his foot with super glue holds him in place real nice for painting. And then just get your exacto under his foot. You could pop it right off, and yeah, you had a nice solid base for painting, and there's no damage at all. Okay, I know I say this is my favorite diorama every time I make one, but this literally is my favorite diorama. And the reason is because, you learn new techniques and you learn hopefully from your failures. So every time you craft something, you gain a new bit of knowledge on how to work with clay or resin or foam, and you can layer that into something you learned from a previous craft. And hopefully if you have a failure, you'll learn from that failure, and that's going to help you as well. So yeah, I mean, every time you create something, it should almost be like your favorite craft, because it's just, this model of all the culmination of everything that you've learned throughout your entire hobby. So just keep that in mind, especially the next time you make something and you're not crazy about it. Like Gerard says, finish it anyway, and you'll be surprised sometimes. You'll surprise yourself. Now for the big channel announcement, I have been straight out with multiple jobs recently, with coaching multiple sports teams for my son and my daughter. A lot going on down here working on the channel. And I'm going to take a little time off in August to spend what is left of the nice weather, or the little bit of nice weather we have here in Maine, with my kids. And then after that, in September, I'm actually going to do something that I've wanted to do my entire life. I'm so excited. I am taking a trip with my brother and sister, and we are flying to Italy. So I'm going to be in Italy for a very large chunk of September. And I'm hoping to run into maybe a famous face or two from YouTube and online as well. Get a little content while I'm over there. I'll definitely be taking pictures and some video, and I'm sure I'll bring that back, and it will inspire me to make something really awesome for the channel when I return. I'll try and maybe get something out before then. We'll see. I've got a couple of small ideas, but don't go anywhere. Channel's not going anywhere. I'm just going to enjoy a little time with my friends and family. All right. Oh, in the meantime, grab a copy of Mountain Mayhem. That'll keep you busy. It's a module that I worked on with DM Scotty and Gareth from the DMG Info and my brother. It's a really fun module. And yeah, until I'm back from Italy, I'll see you around.